I'll go with another team who didn't make, like the most moves, but I think coming off a year where they really accelerated their winning window with Jaden Daniels, I'm going to talk about the Washington Commanders here as one of the most improved teams because I love how they just put their foot to the gas pedal and they said, we now recognize we have the most valuable thing in sports, a franchise caliber, Super Bowl caliber quarterback on a rookie contract. That is the most valuable thing in any sport. And I think that Washington realizes that they had to really capitalize. Not only did I think that they had a great draft, adding guys like Josh Connerly, who's a good addition to the offensive line with Sam Cosmi getting hurt late last year. Connerly could potentially play guard for you, or somebody who's already playing at offensive tackle like Andrew Wiley could play guard. Brandon Coleman could play guard. Connerly can now play tackle. He's also got that long-term outlook at offensive tackle anyway, so I like that addition there. I like the addition of cornerback Trey Amos as well. I felt like I was higher on Trey Amos than a lot of other draft analysts out there. I think he could play press man coverage for you, but I also liked how his instincts were developing in off-zone coverage as well with him at Ole Miss. He had one of the highest forced and completion rates of any cornerback in the country last season. That was his first full-time season at the SEC level as a starter. And I think having him and Marshawn Lattimore, who they traded for at the deadline last year, on the outside now allows Mike Sainristil to be played in a lot of different situations. Now, Sainristil struggled in the slot last year. He only had a 42.5 coverage grade in the slot, but that's because he was primarily being used as an outside corner. And it's tough to sort of just ask this guy like, hey, just play in the slot sometimes. Slot is a lot, in my opinion, it's such a difficult position to play. And it's so much about the mentality that you have. So if you're training all week and if you're preparing to be an outside corner, when they put you inside in the slot, it's just tough to be on your P's and Q's the way that you need to, knowing how many different shape and size wide receivers, different guys with different speeds and skill sets they have to cover. They have those two-way goes. They have a lot more space. So it wasn't a great coverage grade for him last year, but on the outside, he had a 68.5 overall coverage grade. And then if you go back to his days at Michigan, in the slot, primarily as that slot corner at Michigan, 82.5 coverage grade. And so if you wanted to move him more into the slot because you want to get him closer to the ball, closer to the line of scrimmage, and just be feisty against a lot of different slot options, now you have the corner to be able to do that. So you throw in the fact that they also traded for Laramie Tunsil, traded for Deebo Samuel, drafted a guy like Jalen Lane. Like, it's just a great job, in my opinion, of recognizing that they needed to add some premier talent. And I think that they did along the trenches with Tunsil and with Josh Connerly, but then also attacking some skill position players as well with Trey Amos and then Deebo Samuel too. So to me, I love how this team got better in the right areas. Is it quite complete yet? No, but like, think of what this roster could now be next year, even with another offseason for them to continue to get better, for them to continue to stack talent. I think that Washington is once again a threat to win the NFC East. I think they are once again a threat to make a deep playoff run. And then a year from now, I like their projection even better. I like them as a potential Super Bowl team depending on what happens next offseason, but they have set themselves up so well to capitalize on what Jaden Daniels is. And so I think it's most improved just because they made a pretty deep playoff run last year, and they got even better because they were super aggressive in how they approached it this offseason.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think the Tunsil trade especially, I know they gave up a lot in that trade. There's a lot of draft capital involved, but I think it's so worth it. When you have a pass protector like Laramie Tunsil, I've talked about this with some other guys before, it's not just about his spot and whatever he locks down. Having a left tackle that good, I've talked about this with Teron Armstead in Miami, and it's the case with Hall of Fame level left tackles where they make the entire offensive line better. The ability for a guy like this to take another team's best pass rusher one-on-one and neutralize him by himself with no help and allow the help to be slid over on the offensive line or allow chips from the backs or tight ends to go elsewhere, it's such a valuable resource for an offensive line and when you're calling out protection. So I think the fact that last year Jaden Daniels wasn't even protected all that well, and he still did what he did, and he was one of the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in the league. And now you've added Laramie Tunsil, and you mentioned Josh Connerly, and you have a bunch of talent. And then wait till Sam Cosmi gets back because he's one of the best guards in the league, and then you've got a real good problem to have with so much talent on this offensive line, along with the fact that Cliff Kingsbury still wants to center this thing around the run game. I'm with you. They have another team that's surrounded their young quarterback the right way, and making Daniels the center of it all is really the reason they're going to be in contention.
so much talent along the offensive line are words that every single team and organization wants to hear. And Washington's setting themselves up to be one of those teams that can legitimately hear it.